Welcome again to Juan's World. It's now coming up to Chinese New Year. It's actually tomorrow when it's Chinese New Year's Day, which is January 22nd. And I'm doing this the day before, so there's some things that haven't happened yet. But a lot has happened because the Chinese New Year really spreads over a long period of time. There's a lot of things that people do beforehand, and then there's a lot of things that happen afterwards. There's a whole week of celebrations afterwards, and some people actually make it 2 weeks. So there's a lot going on, but I want to make this now just to catch you up. And I want to say a big hello to my English students. I've just started a new class on Sunday mornings, and they are going to be writing a lot for me and reading a lot for me, and they also need to hear me speak. Well, they're going to hear me speak in class, but I'm going to share this video with them as well. So let's get on with it. Now, I live in Cambodia, so Chinese New Year isn't quite as big a deal here as it is in China itself, but it's not small because there's a very large Chinese population in Cambodia, people who were born in China and live here now, or people who are of Chinese descent. It's not so very, very different, although there are not quite so many firecrackers. In the days leading up to New Year in China, children will be letting off firecrackers all the time, all in the streets. Don't see that so much here. Not so much in the way of fireworks in general, but they do the other things that they do in China. One of the important things is to take down the kitchen god that you've had up in the kitchen for the year, and burn it and replace it with a new kitchen god. I don't have a kitchen god. I have a young boy and a young girl looking over my kitchen. But I have done some new decorating. I like to keep some sort of Chinese baubles and images in my apartment. So this coming year is the year of the rabbit, and so I've put up some rabbits on my door to welcome the rabbit. I was born in the year of the rabbit, so it's particularly important for me. Which means if you don't know my age, it's not that difficult to guess, because if I was born in the year of the rabbit, then I must be some multiple of 12 years old or coming up to it. I'm not 48. I'm not 60. So that must mean I'm coming up to 72, which is correct. So I have a special interest in the year of the rabbit. Rabbits are considered to be contemplative, they're considered to be sociable, and they are very good, therefore, at being teachers. So I can by my profession honestly. Now, one of the things you have to do is clean your house, of course. Well, I've done all of that, and you saw me do it in my last video for the Gregorian New Year, so I'm not going to show you all that again. But I've done a lot of Chinese cooking over the past week, and that's what I want to just focus on a little bit. Not a lot, but enough to just get you the idea. One of the first things I did was to make braised belly pork. Now, belly pork is very, very common here in Asia. It's actually very difficult to find in the Western world in general, because most belly pork is used to make bacon. So just finding regular old belly pork is really quite hard. But as you saw in my last video, when I was making the plough pudding, I used the fat from belly pork to make the pastry. Well, now I made braised belly pork, and for that, what you need to do is you need to, first of all, just lightly parboil it. See it here; it turns kind of white, and then in some rendered fat, just brown it off, and then put it in a braising liquid. Now, sometimes you can do this in an oven, but I did it on the stove. Now, the braising liquid is made of pork broth and some soy sauce and some various spices, including star anise, 5 spice powder, and some chili peppers. And you braise it for an hour or so, so that the meat softens. Then, this is the trick, you add maybe about 1/3 of a cup of sugar. I use brown sugar in this case, and then boil vigorously. And what happens is that the braising liquid reduces and it becomes a glaze. And so here's the finished product. I served with some rice. And it got me in the habit of working with belly pork. So the next thing I did was I took the skins and some of the fat off a few very thick slices of belly pork and put them in the oven. Just dust it off with a little bit of salt on very, very high heat for about an hour, and then you end up with this. It's kind of like crackling, we say in English. It's grilled belly pork skins, chopped up, and I had them with a little bit of hot mustard. What else have I done? Well, I made a noodle dish, and I served it in 2 ways. I first of all put it in soup with some shrimp and some bok choy. And because I made so much, I ended up putting the leftovers in the fridge, and then next day had it cold with pickled bean sprouts. I've been doing a lot of pickling recently. I've pickled eggs, I've pickled onions. This all happened, you remember when I was doing Plough Monday stuff and I was talking about cheese and pickled onions. Well, now I've been pickling avocados and tomatoes, and so here you see a salad made from pickled onion, pickled tomato, and pickled avocado. But now on to the sort of grand enterprise of Chinese New Year is making dumplings. And I made dumplings this year with shrimp and leeks. See here, I put them in the food processor with a little bit of soy sauce and some fresh ginger, and then whiz it all up to make a nice filling. And then I made various kinds of dumplings. The first kind I made are sometimes called pot stickers in English. That is, you take the dumpling and just fry it, and it turns a nice crispy brown. And you can do various things with it, but normally I just take them out and either dip them in maybe some hot sauce or some oyster sauce or something like that, and just yum them down as a little snack. But I also made what in English we call wonton. They're soup dumplings. I especially like them. You see them here. And then I serve them in usually a very mild broth with either some green onions or some scallions. And then last of all, my favorite, and the way they quite often make them in dumpling places, at least in Yunnan province where I used to live, is to make a very fiery hot sauce, and and cook them in that hot sauce. And the reason that it's particularly useful for the New Year is that it's red, and red is the color of good fortune, and it's the color of the New Year. So now the other thing that you'll see all around here is that, unlike at Christmas, where they kind of do a little bit, but they're not really very interested in it, but the stores will maybe put up a Christmas tree and put up some lights and some decorations just to be festive, but it's not really a local holiday. But for Chinese New Year, you get lanterns everywhere, you get new slogans everywhere, and you get new animals each year. Last year it was the tiger. So here, for example, is the front of my apartment building, and you've got new bunnies and Happy New Year slogans. And then inside we've got a New Year tree decorated with red envelopes as for presents of money, with bunnies on them, and an altar as well. And we also have marigolds everywhere. I even have one, you can see here, just a token, but everyone has some marigolds just to bring good fortune into the house. Should also burn some incense, but I'm not going to do that because I'm not supposed to light fires inside. And I might do a little bit outside in a bit, but I don't really have a place to do it. So I'm not so sure about that. But they'll do it downstairs, and that's good enough. I mean, that'll work for the whole building. So there's a much more festive feeling about Cambodia in this season than in the Christmas season. So that's kind of like an extension of my holidays. And last, I'm going to show you these moon cakes. Now they're normally more common for the mid-autumn festival rather than New Year, but this is the Lunar New Year, and that means that the moon is full, and so moon cakes are appropriate. So here's some moon cakes. I've also got some duck eggs, 1,000-year duck eggs. These are specially salted duck eggs, and they're not my favorite. I have to say that. There's a lot of salty things in Chinese food. I mean, there is supposed to be a balance between salty and sweet and sour and spicy, but that all supposed to come together. But often there's a lot too much salt for me. So I may eat one and give the rest away. I don't know. I may put them in soup as well. As I think I may have shown you last time, one of the things I like to do is to marinate boiled eggs in dark soy sauce. As you boil the egg for 6 minutes only, because you want to keep the yolk a little bit soft. And then you plunge it in cold water, peel it, and then immediately place it in dark soy sauce and mirin or rice wine, a little bit of vinegar. The vinegar fixes the dye on the egg, and then after half a day or overnight, then you've got a nice dark egg, which you can see here in the noodles that I made. So lots and lots of food, lots of celebrations, enjoying everything as much as I can, and not sure when the next video will be, but meanwhile, please tell your friends about my videos. Please like, please subscribe, and I will see you next time.